The circle of combat was drawn in the dirt of Minho's field. Dragon soldiers and human farmers stood around the edges, watching as Nari and General Kyung-ho faced each other in the center. The ancient laws of the Drakmari Empire demanded that all witnesses respect the outcome of single combat. Kyung-ho towered over Nari, his red scales gleaming in the afternoon sun. His weapon was a massive energy blade that hummed with deadly power. Nari had no weapon except her claws and her determination. "Last chance to surrender, niece," Kyung-ho said. "You are still recovering from your injuries. I am a veteran of 100 battles." "I know exactly who you are, uncle," Nari replied. "You taught me how to fight, remember? I taught the old you. This new version is weak." The general lunged forward with surprising speed for his size. His blade swept toward Nari's head, but she ducked and rolled away. The energy weapon sliced through the air where she had been standing. Nari's broken wing made her movements awkward, but she was faster than Kyung-ho expected. She darted around him, using her smaller size to avoid his powerful attacks. Her claws left scratches on his armor, but nothing that could seriously hurt him. "You cannot run forever," Kyung-ho growled, spinning to follow her movements. "I am not running. I am learning." As the fight continued, Nari began to remember her old training, but something was different now. When she had fought before, it had been about dominance and conquest. Now she was fighting to protect the people she loved. The humans watching were amazed by what they saw. Nari moved like liquid metal, flowing around her uncle's attacks with grace and purpose. Her scales began to glow with the same warmth she used to heat the barn, but brighter now, almost blinding. "What is she doing?" Minho whispered to Jiwon. "I think she is accessing power she never knew she had." The former pilot replied. General Kyung-ho noticed the change too. His attacks became more desperate as Nari's movements grew more confident. She was no longer just defending, she was fighting back. "Impossible," Kyung-ho snarled. "Where is this power coming from?" "From knowing what I am fighting for," Nari said. She suddenly stopped running and planted her feet. When Kyung-ho's blade came down, she caught it with her bare claws. The energy weapon sparked and hissed against her scales, but could not cut through them. "You were right about one thing, uncle," Nari said, her voice calm despite the deadly weapon inches from her face. "Living with humans has changed me. It made me realize that strength is not about how much you can destroy. It is about how much you are willing to protect." With a sudden twist, she snapped the energy blade in half. Kyung-ho staggered backward in shock, but the fight was not over. The general drew a second weapon, a plasma pistol that could kill her with one shot. He aimed it at her heart. "Enough games," he said. "Die with honor, at least." Before he could fire, a small rock hit him in the head. He turned in fury to see who had thrown it. Little Somin stood at the edge of the circle, tears streaming down her face. "Do not hurt her," the 8-year-old shouted. "She is my friend." Kyung-ho raised the pistol toward the child. "Then you can die with her," but Nari was already moving. She threw herself between the general and Somin just as the weapon fired. The plasma bolt hit her in the chest, sending her crashing to the ground. "Nari!" Minho screamed, running toward her. Kyung-ho prepared to fire again, but something unexpected happened. The dragon soldiers who had been watching the combat began to move. But instead of protecting their general, many of them stepped forward to shield the humans. "What are you doing?" Kyung-ho demanded. A young dragon warrior named Tae-hoon spoke for the group. "We have been watching, General. We have seen how these humans care for one of our kind, even at the cost of their own lives. We have seen our princes choose love over power." "They are just humans." "No," another soldier said. "They are people. Just like us, and maybe it is time we stop pretending otherwise." More dragons were joining the rebels. Not all of them, but enough to create chaos in the ranks. The invasion force was splitting apart as dragons chose sides. Kyung-ho looked around at his fracturing army with rage and disbelief. "You are all traitors. When we return home, you will all be executed." "Maybe," Tae-hoon said, "but we will not be executioners anymore." Meanwhile, Minho knelt beside Nari, holding her head in his lap. The plasma wound was serious, but not fatal. Her scales had absorbed most of the energy. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I will live," she said weakly. "But what about the others? Did we save them?" Minho looked around at the scene unfolding in his field. Dragon soldiers were laying down their weapons while others argued among themselves. The humans were helping the wounded from both sides, showing the same kindness they would give to their own neighbors. "I think you did more than save them," Minho said. "I think you changed them." General Kyung-ho found himself surrounded by rebels from his own forces. His authority was crumbling as more dragons chose to follow Nari's example instead of his orders. "This is not over," he warned. "The Emperor will send more fleets. Larger ones. Then we will be ready," Nari said, struggling to sit up. "And next time we will not be alone." She gestured to the mixed group of humans and dragons working together to tend the wounded. "My uncle is right about one thing. This is just the beginning. But it is the beginning of something beautiful." In the days that followed, word of the rebellion spread across both human and dragon space. More Drakmari ships arrived, but many came seeking to join Nari's cause rather than stop it. Young dragons who had grown tired of endless war found hope in the story of a princess who chose farming over conquest. Nari established her new home permanently on Hanyulfor, but not as a hidden refugee. She became an ambassador between species, working to build bridges instead of walls. Her wing healed properly with help from both human and dragon technology, and she learned to fly again. The rice harvest that year was the best in Minho's family history. Nari's presence had somehow enriched the soil, making everything grow stronger and healthier. As they worked together in the fields, Minho often thought about his grandmother's words about kindness being the most important thing. She had been right. A simple act of compassion toward a wounded stranger had changed the fate of worlds, and in the evenings, when Solman visited the farm, she would sit with Nari and listen to stories about distant stars and brave dragons who chose love over war. They were the best stories she had ever heard because she knew they were true. The warning came from old Park Dong-soo early one morning. He arrived at Minho's farm running faster than anyone had seen him move in years, his face pale with fear. "Ships," he gasped, pointing toward the sky. "Strange ships in orbit. The whole town is talking about them." Minho felt his heart sink as he looked up. Even in the daylight he could see dark shapes moving against the blue sky. They were too far away to make out details, but there were many of them. Nari emerged from the barn, drawn by the commotion. When she saw the ships, her golden eyes went wide with terror. "They found me," she whispered. Dong-soo stared at Nari in shock. This was the first time he had seen her clearly. "Minho, what is that thing?" "This is Nari," Minho said quietly. "She is my friend? Your friend?" Dong-soo's voice rose. "That is one of them. One of the dragons that have been attacking human worlds." "She is not like them," Minho protested, but Dong-soo was already backing away, fear replacing his usual kindness. "The news said they are monsters, killers. How could you bring one here?" "Because she needed help," Minho said firmly. Dong-soo shook his head and ran back toward town. Minho knew the old man would tell everyone what he had seen. Soon the whole region would know about Nari. "I have to go," Nari said, her voice full of despair. "Maybe if I leave now, they will follow me and spare this world." "Where would you go?" "They will catch you before you reach the next planet." "Then at least you will be safe." Before Minho could respond, a deep rumbling sound filled the air. A massive shadow passed over the farm as a Drakmari warship descended from orbit. It was larger than anything Minho had ever seen, black metal shaped like a giant dragon with wings spread wide. Smaller ships followed it down. The lead ship landed in Minho's largest field, crushing the carefully planted rows of winter vegetables under its enormous weight. Steam hissed from its engines as the metal hull cooled. "Hide in the house," Nari urged Minho. "Do not let them see you with me. No, we face this together." A ramp lowered from the ship's belly and figures began emerging. They were dragons like Nari, but larger and more heavily armored. Their scales were darker, and their eyes held none of Nari's warmth. They moved with military precision, surrounding the farm in moments. The last figure to emerge was clearly the leader. He was enormous, even for a dragon, with deep red scales and battle scars covering his arms. Golden armor marked him as a high-ranking officer. When he saw Nari, his expression mixed relief with disappointment. "Princess Nayan," he called out in a voice like thunder. "You have led us on quite a chase." "Hello, Uncle Kyung-ho," Nari replied, her voice steady despite her fear. "Uncle?" Minho whispered. "My father's brother," Nari explained quietly. "The head of our military." General Kyung-ho approached them slowly, his eyes taking in every detail. "You look different, knees smaller, weaker. Living among these humans has changed you." "Yes, it has," Nari said proudly. "It has made me better." Kyung-ho's gaze shifted to Minho, and the human felt like he was being examined by a predator deciding whether he was worth eating. "And this is the human who has been hiding you," Kyung-ho said with disgust. "He does not look like much." "His name is Minho," Nari said firmly. "He saved my life." "He corrupted your mind," Kyung-ho corrected. "But that can be fixed. You will return with us now. Your father is willing to forgive your rebellious phase if you resume your proper duties." "What duties?" Nari asked. "Destroying peaceful worlds? Killing innocent families? Expanding our empire, as is our right and destiny." More ships were landing now. Minho could see dragon soldiers spreading out across the countryside, probably surrounding the nearby town. These were not explorers or diplomats, they were an invasion force. "I will not go back," Nari said. Kyung-ho sighed as if dealing with a stubborn child. "You will, because if you do not, we will turn this entire world into ash. Every human on this planet will die because of your selfishness." Minho felt the blood drain from his face. He thought about Somin, about all the innocent farmers and shopkeepers in Seijin. They had no idea what was happening. "You cannot threaten them," Nari protested. "They have done nothing wrong." "They exist," Kyung-ho said simply. "That is crime enough, but I am feeling generous today. Come with us willingly, and we will make their deaths quick." "No deal," a new voice said. Everyone turned to see Li Jiwan walking across the field. The former pilot carried an old military rifle and moved with the confidence of someone who had faced combat before. "You are outnumbered 1,000 to 1, human," Kyung-ho said with amusement. "Maybe," Jiwan replied. "But I sent out a distress signal before I came here. The Galactic Defense Force will be here soon. By the time they arrive, this world will be a memory." More humans were appearing now. Farmers from across the region, armed with hunting rifles and farm tools. They had heard about the dragon ships and come to defend their home. Minho was amazed to see so many brave faces, even though they all knew they were facing impossible odds. Kyung-ho looked around at the growing crowd of humans with something like respect. "Brave, but stupid," he said. "Very well. If you insist on dying today, we will accommodate you." He raised his hand to signal the attack, but Nari stepped forward. "Wait," she called out. "I have a counter-proposal." "You are in no position to negotiate, traitor." "I am still a princess of the royal blood," Nari said, her voice taking on an authority Minho had never heard before. "By ancient law, I can invoke the right of single combat." Kyung-ho's eyes narrowed. "What are you saying?" "I challenge you to individual combat. If I win, you and your forces leave this world in peace. If you win, I will return with you willingly." "And, what makes you think you could defeat me, little princess? You were always the weakest of your generation." Nari stood straighter, and for the first time since Minho had known her, she looked every inch the royal she had been born to be. "Because I am not fighting for conquest anymore, uncle. I am fighting for love." The general smiled coldly and drew his weapon. "Very well. Let us finish what your father should have done years ago." The dreams came every night now, each one clearer than the last. Nari no longer woke up screaming, but Minho could see the weight of what she was remembering in her golden eyes. She moved through the farm work like someone carrying a heavy burden. One morning, while they worked together repairing the barn roof, Nari suddenly stopped hammering and stared into the distance. I remember my real name, she said quietly. Minho put down his tools. What is it, Nayan? Princess Nayan of the Drakmari Empire. Her voice was flat, as if speaking about someone else. Nari was just a nickname my nursemaid used when I was very young. The hammer slipped from Minho's hand and clattered to the ground. Princess? Not just any princess. I am the crown princess, the heir to the throne of the most powerful dragon empire in the galaxy. Nari looked at him with eyes full of shame. My people have conquered hundreds of worlds. We have enslaved entire species, and I was being trained to lead them. Minho climbed down from the roof and sat heavily on a wooden crate. Tell me everything. Over the next hour, Nari shared the memories that had been returning piece by piece. She described the Drakmari homeworld, a massive planet covered in metal cities where millions of dragons lived in strict military order. She told him about her father, Emperor Deho, who ruled with absolute power and believed that dragons were superior to all other life forms. We were taught that other species existed only to serve us, Nari explained. Humans were considered especially weak and worthless. My father used to say that showing mercy to humans was like showing mercy to insects. But you do not believe that now. No, how could I, after living with you? You have shown me more kindness than anyone in my entire life. You saved me when you could have left me to die. You asked for nothing in return. Nari went on to describe her training as a future empress. Combat lessons, strategy sessions, and worst of all, field exercises where young dragons learned to destroy enemy settlements. She had participated in attacks on 3 human colonies before finally questioning what they were doing. There was a colony called New Bizan, she said, her voice breaking. A farming world like this one. Peaceful people who just wanted to grow food and raise their children. We destroyed it completely. You tried to stop it? I asked my father. Why we needed to kill civilians? Why we could not just take the military targets and leave the farmers alone? He was furious. He said I was weak, that I had been infected by human ideas of mercy. Minho felt sick as he imagined the destruction Nari was describing. But when he looked at her, he saw only the gentle being who helped him tend his crops and played with little Somin. What happened next? I started asking more questions. I talked to other young dragons who were having doubts. My father decided I needed to be reminded of my duty. He ordered me to personally execute a group of human prisoners. Nari was crying now, the tears flowing freely down her metallic cheeks. I could not do it, Minho. I looked at those humans, and they reminded me of the stories my nursemaid used to tell about brave farmers and kind merchants. I refused the order. That was very brave. My father called it treason. He said I was no longer fit to be heir to the throne. The Council of Generals agreed. They were going to strip me of my rank and exile me to a prison world. So you escaped. I stole a scout ship and ran. But they damaged my engines before I could jump to hyperspace. I barely made it away from our territory before the ship crashed here. Minho was quiet for a long time, processing everything Nari had told him. Finally, he asked the question that scared him most. Are they looking for you? Yes, my uncle Kyung-ho leads the military. He will never stop searching. Finding me is a matter of honor for the Empire, and when they find you, they will execute me as a traitor, and they will destroy this world for harboring me. The weight of those words settled over them like a heavy blanket. Minho understood now why Nari had been so afraid, so reluctant to remember her past. She was not just a refugee, she was a fugitive. Princess whose very presence put everyone around her in terrible danger. I have to leave, Nari said suddenly. I should have left as soon as I remembered who I was. Every day I stay here puts you and Soman and everyone else at risk. Where would you go? I do not know. Somewhere far away. Maybe I can find other dragons who think like I do now. Maybe I can start a resistance movement. Or maybe you can stay here and help me harvest the winter vegetables. Nari stared at him in shock. Did you not hear what I just told you? I am the most wanted criminal in dragon space. My people will kill you for helping me. I heard every word, Minho said calmly. You told me that you were raised to be a killer, but you chose to be kind instead. You told me that you could have executed innocent people, but you refused. You told me that you gave up everything. Your family, your home, your future, because you knew it was wrong to hurt peaceful farmers. He stood up and put his hand gently on her shoulder. You told me that you are exactly the kind of person my grandmother would have been proud to know. Minho, you do not understand the danger. I understand perfectly. But I also understand something else. You are not Princess Nyan anymore. You are Nari, my friend who helps me with my farm and makes Sonnen laugh. You are the person who keeps my barn warm on cold nights and who worries about my crops when it does not rain enough. Nari was crying again, but these were different tears. Why? Are you not afraid of me? Because I have seen who you really are, Minho said simply. And that person is worth protecting no matter what it costs. That night, as they prepared for bed, Nari made a decision. She would not run away. She would not hide anymore. If her people came for her, she would face them. But she would not. Let them hurt Minho or anyone else on this peaceful world. She was no longer Princess Nyan of the Drakmari Empire. She was Nari of Hanyul IV, and she had finally found something worth fighting for. The nightmares started in the 5th week. Minho would wake in the middle of the night to the sound of Nari crying out from the barn. Her voice carried pain and fear that made his heart ache. When he rushed to check on her, he always found her trembling, her golden eyes wide with terror. "What did you see?" he would ask gently, sitting beside her in the straw. "Fire," Nari would whisper. "So much fire, and ships. Giant ships covering the sky like black clouds. Ships from your people? I think so. But they were attacking something. Destroying it," Nari's voice would break. "I can see the faces of the ones giving orders. They look like me, but their eyes are cold." So cold, Minho would stay with her until the shaking stopped and she fell back asleep. But he was getting worried. The nightmares were becoming more frequent and more detailed. It seemed like Nari's memory was slowly returning, and whatever she was remembering was not good. During the day, Nari tried to act normal, but Minho could see the worry in her eyes. She would stop suddenly while working, staring off into the distance as if trying to catch a thought that kept slipping away. "I wish I could not remember," she said one morning while helping him harvest the last of the rice. "The pieces that come back are all terrible." "Maybe they are not your memories," Minho suggested hopefully. "Maybe they are from movies or stories you heard." Nari shook her head sadly. "No, they feel too real, too personal. I think I was there when those things happened." 2 days later, Minho made a decision that would change everything. The harvest was finished, and he needed to take his rice to the market in Seijin, the nearest town. It was a trip he made twice a year, and this time he wanted Nari to come with him. "It is too dangerous," Nari protested. "What if someone sees me?" "You can hide under blankets in the cart," Minho said. "I want you to see more of this world than just my barn, and maybe getting out will help clear your mind." After much discussion, Nari agreed. They left early in the morning, with Nari curled up in the back of the cart under several thick blankets. The trip to Seijin took 3 hours on the bumpy dirt roads. The town was small but busy. Farmers from all over the region came here to sell their crops and buy supplies. Minho parked his cart near the market square and helped Nari move to a quiet spot behind Li Jiwan's repair shop. Jiwan was an old friend who fixed farm equipment and vehicles. He had once been a pilot for the Galactic Defense Force, but retired to Hanyul IV after being injured in a transport accident. His shop was filled with spare parts and half-finished machines. "Minho?" Jiwan called out when he saw them. "Good to see you. How was the harvest?" "Very good this year," Minho replied. Then, taking a deep breath, he added, "Jiwan, I want you to meet my friend Nari." Nari stepped out from behind the cart and Jiwan's eyes went wide. But to Minho's relief, the older man did not seem afraid. Instead, he looked fascinated. "Well," Jiwan said after a moment, "that is not something you see every day. Hello, Nari." "Hello." Nari replied carefully, Jawan walked around her slowly, studying her with the eye of someone who understood technology. When he saw her damaged wing, he whistled softly. "That is some advanced cybernetic work," he said. "The metal is integrated directly into your bone structure. I have never seen anything like it." "Can you tell what kind of technology it is?" Minho asked. Jawan shook his head. "Nothing I recognize. But whoever built it knew what they were doing. This is military-grade stuff, maybe even royal class." "Royal class?" Nari repeated, and something flickered in her eyes. "The highest level of tech. Usually reserved for leaders or elite warriors." Jawan looked at Nari with new interest. "Where exactly did you say you came from?" Before Nari could answer, shouting erupted from the market square. Minho ran to see what was happening and found a crowd gathered around a news display. The reporter's voice was urgent and frightened. "Attacks continue in the Kepler system," the reporter was saying. "3 more human colonies have been destroyed by unknown forces." Survivors described massive ships and dragon-like beings that showed no mercy. Minho felt his blood turn to ice. Behind him he heard Nari gasp. "The Drakmari Empire has been silent about these attacks," the reporter continued. "But military experts believe this aggressive dragon species may be expanding into human space." The crowd talked nervously among themselves. Words like invasion and war filled the air. Some people were already talking about leaving the planet. Minho turned to look at Nari. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking. "We need to go," she whispered. Now, they hurried back to Jawan's shop. The mechanic was waiting for them with a serious expression. "I heard the news," he said quietly. "Dragon-like beings attacking human colonies." "That is quite a coincidence. It is not what you think," Minho said quickly. "I hope not," Jiwan replied. "Because if it is, you are harboring someone very dangerous." The trip home passed in tense silence. Nari huddled under the blankets, but Minho could hear her crying softly. When they reached the farm, she ran straight to the barn. That night, the nightmares were worse than ever. Minho found Nari curled up in the corner of her stall, sobbing. "I remember more now," she said through her tears. "The attacks on those colonies, I was there, I saw it happen." "You were a prisoner?" Minho asked hopefully. "No," Nari's voice was barely a whisper. "I was giving orders." Minho felt the world spin around him. "What do you mean?" "I think I am not just any dragon, Minho. I think I am someone important. Someone powerful, and I think my people are killers." Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. Another storm was coming. But this time, Minho feared the real storm was not in the sky. It was sitting in his barn, remembering terrible things about herself. "Even if that is true," he said finally, "you are not that person anymore. You are Nari. You are my friend. You help me with my crops and you are kind to Saman. That is who you are now." Nari looked at him with eyes full of gratitude and pain. "But what if my people come looking for me? What if they find you because of me?" Minho did not have an answer for that. But as he sat with Nari in the warm barn, listening to the storm approach, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, he would not abandon her. Some friendships, he realized, were worth any risk. 3 weeks had passed since Minho found Nari in his fields. The broken wing was healing slowly, though it would never be the same. The metal pieces that were part of her body had somehow started fixing themselves, which amazed Minho. He had never seen technology that could repair itself. Each morning, Minho brought fresh water and food to the barn. At first, Nari could only eat small amounts of rice and vegetables, but as she grew stronger, her appetite increased. She seemed to enjoy the simple farm meals Minho prepared. "You are a good cook," Nari said one morning as she finished a bowl of vegetable soup. Her voice was much stronger now, though she still spoke carefully as if choosing each word. Minho smiled as he refilled her water bowl. "My grandmother taught me. She said a man who cannot cook will never be truly independent. She taught you many wise things." "Yes, she did. I miss her." Nari tilted her head, studying his face. "How long has she been gone? 5 years now?" "She lived to be 93, which is very old for humans. She died peacefully in her sleep." "I am sorry for your loss," Nari said quietly. It must be lonely here without family. Minho shrugged. I have my neighbor Dongsu, and now I have you. Something in Nari's golden eyes softened at those words. She had been tense and watchful since arriving, always listening for sounds that might mean danger. But slowly she was beginning to relax. As Nari's strength returned, she began helping, with small tasks around the farm. Her hands, though clawed, were surprisingly gentle and precise. She could sort rice grains faster than Minho, separating the good ones from the damaged ones with incredible speed. How do you do that so quickly? Minho asked, watching her work. My people have very good eyes, Nari explained. We can see small details that others might miss. It is useful for many things. What else can you do? Nari hesitated. I am not sure. Sometimes I feel like I should remember more about my abilities, but the memories are foggy. One evening, as autumn settled over the farm, the temperature dropped. Suddenly, Minho had been working late in the fields and came home shivering. When he entered the barn to check on Nari, he was surprised to find it warm and comfortable. How is it so warm in here? He asked. Nari looked embarrassed. I can make heat. My scales warm up when I want them to. I thought you might be cold when you came back. Minho stared at her in wonder. That is amazing. Can all your people do this? I think so. It feels natural, like breathing. From that night on, Minho often spent his evenings in the barn with Nari. They would talk about many things, his life on the farm, her scattered memories, the books his grandmother had left behind. Nari was eager to learn about human culture, and asked many questions. Why do you grow rice? She asked one night. My family has grown rice on this land for 4 generations, Minho explained. It is good work. Rice feeds people. There is honor in growing food. On my world, I think my people do not grow their own food. I remember machines that made everything we needed. That sounds convenient. Maybe, Nari said thoughtfully, but I think I like your way better. There is something peaceful about working with your hands, helping things grow. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Minho was working in the fields when he heard a small voice calling his name. His 8-year-old niece Soman was walking down the path carrying a basket. Uncle Minho, she called out happily. Mother sent me with some fresh bread. Minho's heart jumped. Soman lived in the town with his sister, but she sometimes visited. On weekends, he had forgotten she was coming today. Soman, stay right there, he called, hurrying toward her. Do not go near the barn. But it was too late. Soman had already wandered over to the barn door, curious about the strange sounds coming from inside. Before Minho could stop her, she pushed the door open. Minho ran after her, expecting screams of fear. Instead, he found Soman standing perfectly still, staring at Nari with wide eyes full of wonder. Uncle Minho, she whispered, is that a dragon? Nari, who had been drinking water, froze when she saw the child. Her golden eyes went wide with concern. Soman, Minho said carefully, this is my friend Nari. She is hurt and staying here until she gets better. Soman took a step closer, completely unafraid. Are you really a dragon like in the stories? Nari looked at Minho, unsure what to say. He nodded encouragingly. I am something like a dragon, Nari said softly. But I am not from the stories. I am real. Can you breathe fire? No, but I can make warmth. Nari held out her hand, and Soman gasped as the scales began to glow softly with gentle heat. That is so cool, Soman exclaimed, reaching out to touch Nari's hand. You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Nari blinked in surprise. Beautiful? Most beings find my kind frightening. Why? You have pretty scales and nice eyes, and your voice sounds like music? For the rest of the afternoon, Soman sat with Nari, asking endless questions and chattering about school, her friends, and her favorite books. Nari listened patiently, seeming to enjoy the child's enthusiasm. When it was time for Soman to return home, she hugged Nari carefully around the neck. Will you still be here next week? She asked. I hope so, Nari replied. After Soman left, Nari was quiet for a long time. What are you thinking about? Minho asked. She was not afraid of me at all, Nari said wonderfully. Children on my world would never approach someone like me so freely. Soman has always been brave, but I think she could sense that you are kind. Kind, Nari repeated the word slowly. I like that word. No one has ever called me kind before. That night, as Minho prepared for bed, he realized something had changed. For the first time since finding Nari, he was not worried about the future. Whatever secrets she carried, whatever dangers might come, he was glad she was here. She had become part of his small family. And family, his grandmother had always said, was worth protecting at any cost. The morning sky over Hanyofor burned orange and red as Kang Minho walked through his rice fields. The storm from the night before had been unlike anything he had seen in his 32 years of farming. Lightning had split the sky for hours while thunder shook his small wooden house. Now everything was quiet except for the soft sound of water dripping from the bent rice stalks. Minho pulled his worn jacket tighter around his shoulders. The air felt different today, charged with something he could not name. His boots sank into the muddy ground as he checked his crops for damage. Most of the rice had survived, though many stalks lay flat against the earth. As he reached the far edge of his property, something caught his eye. A dark shape lay crumpled near the irrigation ditch. At first, Minho thought it might be a fallen tree branch or debris from the storm. But as he moved closer, his heart began to race. It was not debris. It was something alive. The creature was about the size of a young cow, covered in what looked like metallic scales that gleamed dull silver in the morning light. Its body was long and serpentine, with 4 legs ending in clawed feet. 2 wings stretched from its back, but one wing was clearly broken. Bent at an impossible angle with strange metal pieces showing through torn flesh. Minh had never seen anything like it. The creature looked like the dragons from old Earth stories his grandmother used to tell him, but this one seemed part machine. Thin wires and small metal plates were visible beneath some of the damaged scales. The being was breathing, but barely. Its chest rose and fell in shallow, painful movements. Dark blue blood pooled in the mud beneath it. Minh took a step back, his mind racing. He lived on a farming world far from the main trade routes. Strange visitors were rare and alien creatures were almost unheard of. The Galactic Authority had strict rules about contact with unknown species. Harboring an alien without proper permits could result in imprisonment or worse. But as he watched the creature struggle to breathe, Minho felt his fear being replaced by something stronger. This being was hurt and alone. It needed help, the creature's eyes suddenly opened. They were large and golden, like molten metal. They fixed on Minho with an intelligence that made him gasp. This was not just an animal. This was a person. The being tried to lift its head but failed. Its mouth opened and sounds came out that were almost like words. The voice was weak and high, like a young girl. Please, the creature whispered in accented but clear standard galactic, help me. Minho knelt down beside the injured being, careful not to make sudden movements. Up close, he could see that the scales were not just metal-colored but actually had metal woven through them. Some kind of technology he did not understand. What happened to you? Minho asked softly. The creature's golden eyes closed for a moment. Ship ... crashed. Storm. Cannot ... remember much. What is your name? Nari, she whispered. I am called Nari. Minho looked around his empty fields. His nearest neighbor, old Park Dong-su, lived almost a kilometer away. No one would see him if he helped this creature. But if anyone found out later ... he pushed the thought away. The being called Nari was dying. He could not leave her here. I am going to help you, Minho said. But I need to move you to my house. Can you understand me? Nari nodded weakly. Minho ran back to his house and brought his small farm cart. Loading Nari onto it was difficult. She was heavier than she looked, and her broken wing made her cry out in pain when he tried to lift her. But finally, he managed to get her into the cart and covered her with old blankets. The trip to his barn seemed to take forever. Minho kept looking over his shoulder, afraid someone might see them. His heart pounded as he imagined authority ships. Landing in his fields, their soldiers demanding answers he could not give. Inside the barn, Minho made a bed of fresh straw in an empty stall. The space was warm and dry, sheltered from wind and rain. He brought clean water and soft cloths from his house. As he cleaned the mud and blood from Nari's wounds, he got a better look at her injuries. The broken wing was the worst damage, but she also had cuts along her sides and a deep gash on her head. The strange metal in her scales seemed to be some kind of technology built into her body, but much of it was damaged. "Where do you come from?" Minho asked as he worked. Nari was quiet for a long time. "Far away," she finally said. "Very far. I think I was running from something, but I cannot remember what. Are there others like you?" Again a long pause. "Yes, many others. But I do not think they would be happy to find me here." Minho finished cleaning her wounds and sat back. Nari was unlike anything in his simple life, but her pain was real and her gratitude was genuine. "You can stay here until you heal," he said. "I have food and water. The barn is warm." Nari's golden eyes filled with something that looked like tears. "Why would you help me? You do not know me. I could be dangerous." Minho smiled for the first time since finding her. "My grandmother always told me that kindness is the most important thing. She said it does not matter if someone looks different or comes from far away. If they need help, you help them." "Your grandmother sounds wise." She was. She also said that sometimes the most important moments in life come when you least expect them. Outside the barn, the wind picked up again. Dark clouds were gathering for another storm. But inside, in the warm straw, Nari closed her eyes and slept peacefully for the first time since her ship had crashed. Minho sat watching her for a while, wondering what he had gotten himself into. He was just a simple farmer who grew rice and lived quietly. Now he was hiding an alien refugee in his barn, but as he looked at Nari sleeping, her breathing finally steady and strong, he felt he had made the right choice. Whatever came next, he would face it. Some things were more important than safety, some things were worth the risk,